As we approach the first 100 days of Donald Trump's reign, I always wonder, what are we? What is he? The great kidnapper, the great despot, the great deceiver, the great betrayer, the great saboteur, the great enemy, the great abuser, the great tyrant, the great deporter, the great Tariffer. What is he? And what is the fallout from his actions and directives? Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. Let's get started. I wanted to talk to you about a few news updates. First of all, breaking news happened that Mark Carney won the prime minister elections in Canada. He is a liberal. He's leftist. He's a banker. He doesn't mince words. He's a globalist. He said that the relationship that existed between America and Canada has ended, and we are clearly in a place, America is, where we are sandwiched between two leftist governments, and now is the time that Donald Trump has decided to get into a trade war with them. I don't understand the logic of the trade war other than chaos and, shorting the market and insider trading and debilitating American economy to be able to lend a hand to our adversaries so they can pull themselves up as we are falling down. So other than that, I don't see him having any sort of economic agenda, and without him showing any economic agenda, or without him showing any trade deals that he has had with all these countries, I'm just going to go ahead and believe what I read and what I deduce from that, which is Donald Trump has not made any deals with any nations on tariffs yet because he is proud enough to come out and talk about them, and he hasn't. So, more breaking news that happened was the New York Times reported that the Trump administration said it planned to ease the tariff on its car tariffs to give automakers more time to relocate production to the United States. He's also talking about giving tariff relief to farmers. These selective tariff reliefs to sectors of the populace that are blue collar may help Donald Trump keep some of that voter base, but it is definitely not going to help with the price increases that Americans are going to see in the next month and a half, because that'll be an effect from a few months ago, last month when he announced his tariffs. So be prepared for a shock to the economy, and when he brings down the tariffs or the tariff thing goes away and the economy finally finds a place of stability, if it ever does, then we can talk about, we can really go into why there was this selective tariff relief and why he goes up and down with these tariffs, whether that be insider trading or whether that be him just wanting control over the economy of the world and upending the economy, whatever it may be. But selective tariffs is not going to help the average American looking for cheap things to buy at Walmarts all around the country. Another news that sort of bleeds into what I wanted to talk to you more about today was that that Reuters reports that FBI is using polygraph tests in internal leak investigations. It just immediately takes me to like the time of evil in the Harry Potter series when they're doing like mind experiments and forcing people to tell the truth and having tribunals, some sort of, and that's how you're going to take care of whistleblowers. That's a warning to whistleblowers. But I hope there are enough good whistleblower FBI agents who can trick a polygraph test, because that's why polygraph tests are not good for legal evidence in a court, because they can be tricked. Okay, with that said, let's go into seeing how there's this police state expansion happening in our country. We are in the police state expansion stage of the autocracy. The culling of the government continues, but most of it has happened. Then it'll start up permanently laying off these workers. And this is what dictatorship looks like. With the government shrinking to a point where they can do the basic things like suppressing people from protesting. And I'll read you a few things that should make your hair stand up, because it is scary. The New York Times reports President Trump will sign 2 new executive orders on immigration to unleash America's law enforcement to pursue criminals and identify sanctuary cities that don't cooperate with immigration enforcement, said Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary. Washington Post continues with that story, saying Trump signed an executive order on Monday directing the Attorney General and the Department of Homeland Security to publish a list of states and cities they say are obstructing the enforcement of federal immigration law. The administration often refers to them as sanctuary cities. Donald Trump signed another executive order on Monday directing federal officials to boost legal protections for local police officers and encourage them to aggressively police communities. So remember how he was talking about immunizing police officers to go after people within civil society? Well, we're here. He has ordered it. He has issued an executive order for Homeland Security and the Attorney General to boost the ability of local police who are willing and able to collaborate with those departments and help them with removing people from the United States without due process of law. Illegally do so by defying our core rights under the Bill of Rights. The government has thus far violated the First, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth Amendments flagrantly. And until the Supreme Court says so, there's nothing to stop them. An independent journalist, Olga Nestorova, reported that within 90 days, Attorney General and the Department and the Secretary of Defense, in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security and heads of agencies as appropriate, shall increase provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions to assist state and law enforcement. Within 90 days, Defense Secretary, in coordination with the Attorney General, shall determine how military and national security assets, training, non-lethal capabilities, and personnel can most effectively be utilized to prevent crime in cities, in states, the military, not just the National Guard that's governed, that is under the control of the governors, the military, bringing them into the states and cities already before the protests can get out of hand, because that's all they have the power to do. That's how a police state starts. That's how dictatorships sustain themselves. But a federal judge did say Donald Trump tried to unilaterally withhold funds from sanctuary cities and was shut down in court. Just like he was in 2017 when a judge found that doing so violates Constitution and separation of powers. So what he would do, to take funding away from sanctuary cities after he goes and uses his military powers on these cities, that's already proven in court to be not constitutional. So, I want you to think about where we are as a police state. I want you to think about how do we think about ourselves or living in a democracy while this is happening on our watch. There's nothing we can do other than raise our voices or call our representatives and senators and implore them to move fast to ensure that this sort of dictatorial police state does not take a hold in our country. Caroline Leavitt used the White House lawn to essentially fill it with posts of immigrant felons who had been convicted of committing crimes as a backdrop to where the press stands and asks questions to people in the administration. Well, I'm glad you posted them up because they were caught, due process was had, then they were convicted. What we're talking about with Abrego Garcia, Andrew Romero, Manuel Gutierrez, and several of them is that they got no due process at all. And the children who are American citizens, they were given a choice. Not due process of law, not right to counsel, unreasonably seized and removed into cruel and unusual environment where these children who are sick, some of them, will not get the care that they need. So let's pay attention to that more than the placards on the White House lawn. Ducey from Fox News asked Caroline Leavitt, would you ever arrest a federal judge or even a Supreme Court justice? Leavitt answered, I'd refer you to the DOJ for individuals they are looking at. Anyone who is breaking the law or obstructing federal law enforcement officials is putting themselves at risk of being prosecuted. Absolutely. Well, first of all, Caroline, the way that you deal with federal judges is that you first have to impeach and remove them before you can prosecute them. If you knew that much, you would say the answer to federal judges would be no. And Supreme Court justices, well, good luck. Good luck trying to get anywhere close to any federal judge, let alone the Supreme Court justices. The arrest of Judge Dugan is not an escalation, but just a show of power. Yeah, we can arrest a judge. Federal judges is a whole different story. And Ducey asked her about federal judges, and she made the reference that yes, we could, when no, really, you cannot. You cannot go after federal judges in the manner of arresting them or prosecuting them. You go by impeachment, removal, the impeachment process that requires 67 votes for removal, and then you can prosecute them after they've been removed from office. So, moving on to the last story from Face the Nation. Tom Homan, this border czar who is overseeing all of this happening with the expansion of ICE into the cities and creation of a police state under the guise of immigration and customs enforcement. Donald Trump's border czar insisted Sunday that Trump administration did not deport American children to Honduras, arguing that the White House sent the children to the country because their mothers, who were being deported, wished to bring them, did not provide them with the right to counsel, did not provide them with due process of law. This is an American citizen who is effectively being sent back to the country of his mother or her mother's origin without due process of law, and you just deal with it by a choice? Speaking to CBS, Homan said on Sunday that he's not aware of any specifics in the case of the 4-year-old child with cancer, but dismissed the use of the word deported to describe the removal of the American children from the country. Then what do you call it? Illegal removal. That's what you did. You illegally removed American citizens from American soil. You stupid, stupid man. And now you've threatened their lives and compounded the harm, the specific and general harm that they are enduring. And they will come back. And they will hold people like Tom Homan and our government accountable for the harm that is being caused. These citizen children sure will. And they will get their right to counsel. And this anarchy that is going on in our country will have to stop. And the only way it can stop is if for the Supreme Court to unambiguously order the return of these people. Everyone, all levels, whether you have been sent to El Salvador or if you're being deported to Honduras and other places with or without American children, you are to be brought back for due process of law. And then proper court procedure, Article 3 court procedure, federal court procedure, American court procedure, to see whether those people deserve a pathway to citizenship or deportation. That's what the word deportation is used for a legal removal of people from the United States after process has been had. Like all of those felons who you have convicted and put in the placards of the White House lawn. I mean, you could have put Donald Trump's there too, but you didn't. Why? Because he wasn't convicted. See, at least with Donald Trump, you used common sense. Anyway, with that said, thank you for listening to me talk and babble and tell you about this outrageous expansion of the police state, of this inhumane practice of sending whole families and giving them choice of either leaving their American-born children or taking them with them, even if these children are ill, by people like Homan and Christine Nome and people who have no heart or reasonability or even the backing of the rule of law because they have evaded due process of law. Giving somebody a choice at the door and shipping them off is not due process of law. Telling the court that these people are MS-13 or Tren de Aragua is not due process of law. The way you do it is that you bring fact evidence to a fact-finding trial court and hold a trial to see if this person, or hold hearings to see if this person is in fact part of those gangs or illegally here and do not deserve to be here or undocumentedly being here for decades on end, for years on end, building families here. Each case needs to be looked at on its own. And that's how American law works. And we need to press our representatives and our senators to keep on pushing for that, including our state representatives and senators, because Donald Trump is sending the military to our states, people. The military, not just the National Guard. So you see how this is coming home. you see how the worst fears are coming true and are building up. So pay attention, please. And thank you for listening. Please like and share and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.